We're going to record tonight's session. My name is Steve Evans. I appreciate everybody making time tonight. As people continue to enter the room, I just want to thank everyone. I know Zooms aren't always the easiest thing for us to do. However, when you think of the weather that we're having tonight, trudging down campus through the snow and over the river and everything else, it's almost a blessing for us to be able to do this. We promise to be as quick as we can with this session. We want to make sure that we give you some things that hopefully you can bring back to your teams and help tie in our culture to everything that we're doing in the athletic department and what you're doing in your life. To begin tonight, as we get started, as people continue to enter the Zoom session, I'm going to ask you to take out your phones. And I'm going to ask you to use your Menti app. All you have to do is go to menti.com, use the code up at the top, and let's just see who's in the room. Sometimes when there's only a few screens showing, you get a chance now to see everybody and we can have some interaction. So you're going to go to menti.com, use the code 48631495, and make sure you go to the bottom and hit enter. So as you'll see, as the balls start to come in, we start to see that we are bigger than just the screen. I would also ask that people pay attention tonight. Use a piece of paper, use the notes section on your phone. So when things come up during this conversation tonight, that you have a chance to write some things down. You know, many of us forget things that get said to us 5 minutes after they've been said. So take advantage of the note section on your phone, or get a sheet of paper. If you see something, if you like something, if you want to put it in the chat, please go ahead. I would ask that we continue to be respectful of others in the chat. Let's use this to be productive tonight. Let's get the most that we can out of it. We've asked Matt Davidson to join us. Matt is from the Excellence with Integrity Institute. He's worked an awful lot with us for the past 8 to 10 years with our Moyne way. And I'm going to turn it over to him, and then we're going to get started here. Maybe just give us a couple more minutes or a couple seconds here, Matt. I know we got a few other people that are still entering. We're up to about 270 people that are entering. I know we've got a few more, but I think we can see. Obviously, we got a good group. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Davidson. Thank you, Matt.
Good evening, everybody. I'm grateful for the chance to be with you tonight. We are I'm going to try and dig in here tonight a little bit. What Steve and the team have asked me to do is to try to unpack a little bit these 5 foundational values, the 5 cornerstone Jesuit values, which I would say constitute the important, the foundational mission element undergirding the Moyne way. And what I'm going to try to do tonight is to really unpack those important things in terms of some concrete urgent applications of them that we're seeing in college athletics at this time. Along with those 5 cornerstone values, want to keep in mind this idea of the cannonball moments, this 500th anniversary that's being celebrated with the Jesuits, universities and colleges. I know this fall you guys talked a lot about it and even did some reflection on about a cannonball moment in your life. As we think about cannonball moments, it's not just a historical celebration of an important event in the life of St. Ignatius, but I think it's a really important psychological element for us to think and reflect on. You can think about them in your life. You can think about them in sport. You can think about the idea of a cannonball moment in a grand way, or really in a very small and specific way. A cannonball moment that you experienced this semester, or in today's practice, or in tonight's games. A cannonball moment is one of those things that forces you to stop. It doesn't have to be a grand life moment necessarily, but there are many times throughout the day when we get knocked off our game, when we encounter the unexpected, and we're challenged to really put this into action. So we take those 5 Jesuit values and the idea of a cannonball moment. And what I'm going to try and do is just see if we can kick a little bit around these 5 values. So the first one I want to really talk about is this idea of Magis. That's the important Jesuit value. The application that I think is relevant for us right now of this idea of Magis is what I would call focus and feed the roots of your desired fruits. So we're going to talk a little bit about focus and feeding the roots to your desired fruits. The idea of Magis, roughly translated, means more, the abundance, a restless discontent with mediocrity. But there's always another element to Magis that's often forgot, and that's sadis, enough. In today's world, what we're seeing is there's a quest with more. Our souls are tired, are burdened by trying to think about too many things, balance too many priorities, keep too many things, balls in the air that we're juggling while we're going. And what we're really wanting to do when we think about Magis now is, when is more enough? How do we find that balance? 2 beautiful references, one essentialism and the second one effortless by author Greg McKeown. What he's really talking about is essentialists have the ability to take their energy from a whole bunch of different priorities and to really focus in on the few things that matter. The idea of becoming effortless, elegant, means that we're not just trying more. We're trying to be really focused on our progress, our core goals, and to go after that. So when we think about Magis right now, we're talking about less done better. Less done better with a focus on progress. That's the root. A commitment to rest, recovery, balance, and boundaries. This is the challenge today with all the different things that are going on. Our souls are tired. We're tired from the COVID. We're tired from a lot of different upsetting things that are happening in our world. How do we get down to that focus on rest, recovery, balance, and boundaries? So it's not just Magis more, it's Magis more of the right stuff. The idea of fruits and roots, I think, can really help us with Magis. If we think about the fruits being those goals that we want to achieve, the things that we're restless to achieve excellence in. Those fruits, however, have to be really tightly prioritized. Once we know what they are, what we really need to do is go back to the roots that lead to them. I put a graphic here. This came from Purdue softball, a retreat we did with them not that long ago, where they literally were taking the fruits that they wanted to achieve, their GPAs, their All-Americans, their NCAA tournament run, and then they broke it down into the root things that they could really focus on and measure. Love, integrity, communication. In the graphic there, I put this idea, we want to win big games. We want to be fresh down the stretch. We want to have fearless play. Those are the fruit goals. But the roots that we can really work on and get focused on and measure is things like communicating better, recovering faster as a team, fighting fair and well, right? So when we're thinking about our Magis goals more, if we start breaking this down in terms of fruits and roots, if we really intentionally go after those roots, then the fruits will ensue. One thing, one hack, one strategy that we've been using lately is what we call 3C root goals. When you think about those root goals, first of all, it requires that we're clear about what our core priorities are. What are we really trying to accomplish? What's the 1 or 2 things that we really want to get after? If you think about them in terms of a ladder, you can think about your commit goal. This is something that you absolutely know you can do every single day. The challenge goal, it's a commitment that'll be a little bit of a stretch, but if we collectively decided to commit ourselves to it, it'll be challenging, but it'll move us. And then finally, the crush it goal. This is the supreme commitment to make if all the circumstances and all the commitment and the timing is there. What the goal research says is that when we think about achieving more, we put these big, hairy, audacious fruit goals, national championship, league championship, personal best, but the wheels come off because we don't have enough root goals. We can't get enough wins to really get momentum going. So if you think about a commit, challenge, and crush it goal, it's a way to really break it down and go after it. One thing about this, you can think about this for yourself. What's my commit goal, challenge goal, crush it goal? Maybe it's about nutrition. Maybe it's about working out every single day. Maybe it's about meditation, whatever your goals are for you personally. But you'll notice that I've framed these in terms of the we, the culture. What can we do? What's our commit goal? What's our challenge goal? What's our crush it goal? An example of a crush it goal that I always like is this one that came from a wrestling team out in North Dakota. Their crush it goal after about 3 years of really working together as a team was to have a completely dry wrestling season. The coach didn't give that goal to them. They had their 24, 48-hour rules. They were working on a bunch of different things, but they collectively said, we got the team, we got the circumstances, we got the people who are willing to make this. If the only thing you have is a crush it goal, sometimes if you don't make it, then the wheels fall off. So building up, commit, challenge, crush it allows us to go after more, but we're doing it in a root-based way. So Magis, one of our core goals. Second value, Cura Personalis, care of each person in their uniqueness. And I'll read this slide carefully. It's not a typo. What I wrote down there, I think the urgent application is what I coined, don't FUD up your play or your day. Don't FUD up your play or your day. What do I mean by that? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD. If you're really, we know that many student athletes, many teams have been struggling with mental health and anxiety. It's the pandemic. It's a whole bunch of things that have been contributing to it. I can't emphasize enough how good Judson Brewer's work unwinding anxiety is. Very practical, very applied. He's got an app that you can actually work with. But as you think about fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD, what happens is that FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, steals our peace, our confidence, our joy, and causes the suffering. That's what makes us unable to simply act or react when we're practicing or when we're in a game. That's where the yips or stage fright starts to come in. That's where a sport that you've loved your entire life can really start to be a burden on you, can really start to feel like there isn't the joy there. It's the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that I would say creates the war within ourselves and between each other. Sometimes that's fear, uncertainty, and doubt is what contributes to animosity between teammates. I'm not sure how to interact with you. I'm not sure how to handle the force of your personality and your competitiveness. One of the things that Brewer talks about is this idea that fear, uncertainty, and doubt are contagious. And you've seen this on teams. You know that there are teams, actually, if you think about the playoffs from football over the weekend, even professionals, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt starts to get contagious. You have multiple turnovers, multiple mistakes, multiple things that start to grow. Everyone can feel that, hey, we're starting to act a different way than we were just one game ago. The critical thing is, I would say, awareness is the superpower. Awareness is the superpower individually and collectively. But you can't think your way out of FUD habits. If it was that easy, if all we had to do was simply think about fear, uncertainty, and doubt, yes, it would be easy. We have to behave ourselves into new habits, right? So if you think about a sports skill, if it was just as easy as technically knowing what to do and thinking about it, anybody could do it. You have to understand, but then you really have to make new habits. I put up here a little panel from our culture assessment. You know, we do our team culture assessment at Moyne, and we have for some time. It's also an assessment that we do with Division 1, 2, and 3 athletic programs across the country. This fall, we began conversations, and we're starting this spring at Syracuse University with their athletic department. This is a sample panel from a Division 1 soccer team. This is a very, very typical panel. And if you look at some of what you're seeing here, it's student athletes and coaches thinking about fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and talking about the ways in which they recognize we don't do a very good job of not worrying about how we compare to others, or admitting mistakes, or focusing on things within our control. I'm pointing this out to you so that you see, one, the team surveys, as long as people are honest and simply say where we are, we can begin to work to change those habits. But it's the team habits, it's the collective habits that really need to change. Awareness is the first step. Hey, we're not too good at these things. You know, in the past, we've talked about team habits for awareness, like what's your word? What's your number? What's the story you're telling yourself? When we realize that the people on this team, hey, I'm a 5, I'm a 3, I'm a 10, I'm anxious, I'm scared, I'm frustrated, I'm in the zone. The story I'm telling myself is that I'm not as good as I was last year, that I can't find my groove, right? That helps us to really not only be aware, but to form a habit where we're collectively sharing these things. Highlight, low light, flashlight. What's a highlight from today or from this last week? What's a low light? Who has been a flashlight for you? Who's encouraged you? The start, stop, continue, or improve. Once there's an awareness, hey, we're not very confident when we get in tight situations. That's good. That's the first step. Then what should we start, stop, continue, or improve? Let's start bringing bench energy. One of the things we've been working on in terms of root to fruit goals is team bench energy, especially with big teams like lacrosse, softball, soccer. When you turn and you look and you realize, hey, fear, uncertainty, and doubt is taking over this team, but on the sideline, it just looks like everybody's watching us implode. That just helps to bring it down even more. It's contagious, right? So what should we start, stop, continue, or improve? Let's improve. When someone's struggling, we make eye contact, we pull them out of it. The praise and polish. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt are going to be there, but the care of each person and their uniqueness means within our team, we can talk about things we're doing well, things we need to improve upon. Self-awareness is the superpower. You can be aware of what's going on, but it's the habits that change the behaviors that start to give us that feeling that we're turning on the confidence, and we're starting to really have not only care of each person and their uniqueness, but care of our team in its collectiveness. Just one more little practice from this unwinding anxiety. Can't recommend it enough, but the idea of RAIN, his acronym is 1, think about and recognize what's happening right now inside of you. Literally looking and going, hey, if I'm starting to feel anxious, starting to feel tension, is it in my back? Is it in my neck? Is it in my stomach? Allowing it, accepting it. We're not pushing it away. We're not trying to change it. We're not trying to deny that it's there. And then literally investigating. How does it feel? Is it hot? Is it anxious? Am I sweating? Am I worried? When you literally start to name and investigate, it's a habit that creates curiosity. I'll challenge folks. I've been using this a lot myself, a lot with a lot of teams. You start feeling yourself getting anxious, recognize, allow, and then investigate. What is that? Where's it coming from? Is it in my stomach? What happens is when I investigate, it literally disappears most times. And then finally, note what's happening. Now, RAIN is a practice you can do for yourself in the middle of a tough spot, in the middle of a tough game. But it's even better if it's a team practice. Can we recognize what's happening to us? Can we accept it? What's it look and sound and feel like? What do we do to get ourselves out of it? So think RAIN. Think, This is one of the most surprising habits that has been powerfully impactful for me and for many other people. We talk about the idea of being more curious than afraid. When you start to realize things are going within yourself or within your team, we're starting to really feel the anxiety ratcheting up. It's unbelievable hack if you literally go, It calms you down. It puts breath into your tummy. It makes you then think, what is this? Where is it coming from? The idea is what fires together, wires together. It's a sports psychology idea. The more we go, and rewire ourselves to be curious more than afraid, we can reteach ourselves. As a team and individually, it is malleable. Now, a lot of the things that we're seeing with anxiety, with performance fears and stuff like that, Those habits have been cultivated for many years. This isn't a hack that's going to fix it tomorrow. But the more there's psychological safety and collective safety talking and thinking about this amongst our teams, the more we're individually working on it, the more we just have a culture where it's safe, where we recognize that it's part of the deal. It is a distinctly Jesuit action and reflection approach to sports psychology that is also really, really powerfully impactful. Men and women for and with others. The urgent application I really want to talk about is this idea of bounce together, bounce. We have this idea about how our plans will go in our mind. We think it'll be from point A to point B on a fairly straight line. We rarely visualize what is the reality of most plans. Most plans worth attaining have a lot more complex course that unfolds. You know, Mike Tyson famously said, everybody's got a plan until they get hit. We make our plans as if we're not going to get hit versus visualizing, expecting, and planning to get hit. These are the cannonball moments that we're talking about. This is why it's a, what's tonight's cannonball going to be? Is it going to be an individual who's just not there? Is it going to be, that the other team gets up on us? Is it going to be that we're sloppy? Is it going to be that we have low energy in the building? Is it going to be a COVID cancellation? Our plans, our dips, our valleys, we have to continuously expect and plan for those as a team. What the resilience literature talks about is not the absence of stress. That's one, not possible. Two, it's not desirable. When you're going after a plan, you actually want stress. You want to expect it. But what they're talking about is the difference between hitting the ground and stopping right there, or literally coming back. The sports psychology term is low points become turning points. If you think about the energy of someone hitting a trampoline, it's the force of their impact, the deep impact, the weight of it, that actually signifies how high back up they're going to go. If we get to a point where we start looking and saying, look, we are going to have some moments where we got to bounce. What are they going to look like? What are we going to do when that happens? How quickly can we return? You are not going to make it through a season, through an athletic career, through a life without some moments where you're going down. Now, why are we talking about this in terms of men and women for and with others? Because I would say oftentimes we're least together when we fall. St. Ignatius said, in times of desolation, avoid isolation. But when the team goes down, when a player goes down, psychologically, emotionally, physically, what we really want is a bounce routine. Coach K says we're not strong alone. It's not a matter of, and sometimes people say, yeah, well, we get good sideline energy. I'm not talking about normal sideline energy. I'm talking about the ritual, the routine, the plan for when practice, game, critical point in the season. What are we going to do? Who's going to start it? What's it going to look like? How do we have that hard conversation quickly on the sideline? How do we make sure that we bring intense love? There is nothing that hurts me more than going to a game, high school or college, and seeing a team struggling and the student body there sitting on their hands, even parents. Everybody in the gym knows we need a rally, that we're in a low point, and no one's doing anything. There's a diffusion of responsibility. So when we talk about being men and women for and with others, I would say the central thing that we really want to focus on is bounce. How do we help each other bounce? How do we plan for that moment when it happens? Because invariably it will. Let's switch a little bit here and talk about one that seems kind of vague, elusive, big picture, social justice. I think the urgent application that's really captured our attention of late is this social justice quote, this idea that there's no such thing as justice, there's just us. There's just us. What oftentimes people think is there is some place, some athletic department, some coach, some team where everything is perfect, where the perfect standard reigns, where everybody's kind, where people know how to motivate each other. That's not true. There's just us, a group of people who get together to decide how we're going to be together. In this book that I've referenced before, Confidence, How Winning Streaks Begin and End, their key takeaway is dialogue is the antidote to denial, the capacity to discuss the undiscussable. There's just us. You know, it's the Dr. Phil question. How's it working for us? Does it feel like people are supportive? Does it feel like they're there? They're helping you to bounce? Does it feel like people are able to own their vulnerabilities, to encourage you? If there's not, then there's just us to decide, what are we going to do better or differently? How are we going to fix this? This takes the idea of justice from being some big lofty thing that somebody else is responsible for, down to something that we as a team and as a group and as a department can dig in on. If we don't like it, we can fix it. There's just us. I gave this little hack here from the book Reboot because I think there are many times when there's a lack of justice, when things are struggling, when we're in a rut, when it's time to reboot. These three questions I really, really like as the kind of just us, justice questions to pursue. It's questions like, what are we not saying that needs to be said? We're soft. We don't work very hard. When we get punched in the mouth, we fade. When things aren't going well, people sit on their hands on the sidelines. What are we saying in words or deeds that's not being heard? You know, we're kind of apathetic, or some people, we got some cliques, we've got some groups, we got some spots where people really don't feel connected to the team. They're saying that by where they sit, they're saying that by what they say and don't say, by their energy, but it's not being heard. No one's recognizing that their experience isn't quite what they might want it to be. And then finally, what's being said that I'm not hearing? We don't need you to be a superstar. We need you to bring super energy. We need you to focus on the roots, not the fruits. What am I not hearing? I would say the biggest change between high school to college that we see at Division I, II, and III is accepting changing roles and changing goals. Student athletes really struggle when someone says, look, I don't need you to do all the things that you like or are potentially good at. What this team most needs now is this. Are we hearing it? When we get into one of those ruts and we realize there's no such thing as justice, these kinds of questions can really challenge us. The other one I'll throw out there is one we did for the Women's Basketball Coaches Association on a module for inclusion. The idea of inclusion is it's a continuum. It is something that needs to be defined. It's not one thing universally applied, one standard for everybody, but there's a continuum. And if you think about as a team, what does inclusion look like? What does tolerance look like? What's exclusion look like? There's just us. And we have to fight to talk about the things that make us feel included, the things that make us feel excluded. Nobody can fix this for you miraculously within your team. This is the chance where we need leadership, we need dialogue, we need to keep battling for the few things that matter. So when we talk about this idea of justice, the thing I really want to emphasize here is that there's just us, and these are a couple of tools and hacks for us to really stumble, to really dig when we stumble. Finding God in all things, the fifth value, final one, and sometimes one of the most difficult for people to get their mind around. I want to talk a little about intention, attention, gratitude, and acceptance. I don't care what your faith background is. I really believe the distinctly Jesuit background and St. Ignatius's philosophy is good psychology. One spiritual mystic called prayer a dialogue focusing intention and attention. A dialogue focusing intention and attention. That's what prayer is. St. Ignatius talked about this idea is pray as if everything depends on God, work as if everything depends on you. We usually do it the other way around. We pray when we're out of strategies, out of hacks, out of things, when our lives in trouble, right? It doesn't matter what higher power you're thinking about. It's the surrender to that power. That's good 12-step. That's good Buddhist thinking. That's almost every religion, faith tradition talks about this idea of surrender. So if we think about finding out God in all things as really calling us to think about our intention. What's our intent for this goal, for this practice, for this workout? What am I trying to do today in this moment? Where is my attention being focused? Is it on rumors, regrets, fears, mistakes? Or is it on new growth? We find God in all things by turning our intention and our attention on a daily, moment-to-moment basis. Now, the theme for this year is attitude of gratitude. And when we talk about finding God in all things, gratitude, abundance is what St. Ignatius talked about. But the nuance that I want to add this year is this idea of acceptance of all experiences and emotions. That includes sad, frustrating, angry, or difficult ones. It's not a toxic positivity that tries to avoid, hide, or deny tough things. Telling someone they should have an attitude of gratitude because that knee injury helped them to really focus on their studies, or that COVID break really helped your team because maybe you weren't in that moment where they're feeling angry, difficult, frustrating, sad. The gratitude is for that moment and the recognition that good things can come from it, but we're not trying to deny, hide, or avoid tough things. People need space and time to be grateful for their adversities when we're finding God in all things, especially the tough things. Sometimes we need to make peace with the sad, difficult, frustrating, angry things. Every test in life makes us bitter or better. Every problem comes to break us or make us. The idea of finding God in all things, of putting intention, attention, gratitude, and acceptance, that is the pathway to both the fruit and the root. It's the work on our intention, attention, gratitude, and acceptance. That's the root. That's how we find God in all things. And it's also the way to get to peaceful, confident, reflective, grateful living. So when we talk about finding God in all things, it is very, very good sports psychology. What's my intention on this shot? Where's my attention going in this moment on the sideline? What am I grateful for, even if it's difficult? What is this difficult, painful lesson that I don't want teaching me? How by accepting this is new growth happening? I would almost argue that, finding God in all things could be the best sport psychology, sport and spirituality value of the five. And probably too often we reduce it down to something that it's not. It is the beautiful gift and legacy, I think, of Ignatian education, the action and reflection, the finding God in all things, that I think is the foundation of what we really are going after. I've thrown a lot at you. I feel like my goal when I get together with you is to give you the best of the important and the best of the urgent. I'm asking you here tonight to get back on your mentee at the end here. We just want to know what phrases, insights, or strategies can you adapt or adopt for yourself or your team. As you're putting those in there, I'll say a couple quick things. I know that tonight's presentation, especially via Zoom, is not perfect. I know it's a lot of information. It comes at you from our department, from me in love. You may not be able to use it all today, tomorrow, but if you can take some of these things like Just Us, FUD, Bounce, Breaking Clicks, these are the concrete things, and the goal is not really to have you master all of these things tonight or tomorrow. The goal of putting these in your toolbox is like a strength and conditioning coach giving you a new workout. It took us 45 minutes here tonight to think differently, to show you some different workouts that you could do. Frankly, it's one of my least favorite things to do with a strength and conditioning coach is to watch the video, to learn the new technique, to master the exercise. It takes time and it's not really the workout. That's kind of what we're doing here tonight. But we're giving you the strategies that you can work on individually and collectively today, tomorrow, and in and through the sport experience. My contention has been throughout all of the work that we've done at Moyne and elsewhere, that it is possible to have an athletic experience where student athletes are fortified as a result of it, where because of the challenges of competing every single day, you come away from your college experience better and different than a student who just got a great Moyne education without athletics. But I really believe there's character and culture needed for that. And I think that's what the department is really trying to bring to you. So as these continue to come in, I'll invite Coach Evans to come in for some final thoughts here and move us on to our last slide.
Thank you, Matt. I just think, just reading some of the things that the student athletes and coaches have put down, these are all tools. All of your teams, all of your coaches will get tonight's presentation sent to them tomorrow. So if there was a lot that was thrown at you tonight, if you thought there were bits and pieces of this that you'd like to look at again or talk about with your coaches or talk about with your teams, please ask your coaches for the slideshow. Maybe they can print it out for you, or you'll be able to at least dig a little bit deeper on things that can help your team. These presentations are about our culture. That's why we're all here tonight. We're all going after these things, and especially when you tie it back into the Jesuit values, that's what makes going to Moyne so special. The fact that 4 years from now, or you seniors that go out into the real world and you're having job interviews next year, you can talk about these 5 values and how they related to your team, how they related to you, and how it's going to help you, be the next hire that company should have, because you have some of these values that are distinctly Jesuit that you learned from Moyne, and hopefully it helped here tonight. As we wrap up, I'm going to send it over to Father Nash for a reflection. And then when he's done, I just want to thank Matt Davidson again for everything. I think when you look at courage, the wholeheartedness, vulnerability, imperfection, we're not going to be perfect. We know that. Athletes make mistakes. We fall short, but we do bounce back. And I think that's one of the things that I got out of this most tonight, is that we have to keep bouncing. No matter how hard we get hit, we're always going to keep bouncing back and trying to get better. With that being said, Father Nash.
I'm going to offer my reflection in the form of a prayer. So let us pray. Good and gracious God, giver of all good gifts, we have much to think about and much to be thankful for. But we ask you to help us to see you and each other in nature and the glory of the world. We ask you to help us always strive to be better, always striving to move ahead. It takes a lot of work. We ask you to be aware of people beside ourselves. We want to be men and women for and with others. We want to be involved. There's so many things that come our way that we need your help. We need the help of each other, that we have to work together as a team. And finally, St. Ignatius said, we want to set the world on fire. And that really means that all of us work together to make the world a better place, to change the world, to make things better. And with God, we ask, may we praise your name in all that we do and say, now and forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. I do think each and every one of us has an opportunity every day to set the world on fire. It's not something you do when you graduate. You can do that tomorrow. So with that being said, we've got you in and out of this Zoom. within 40 minutes. Matt Davidson, thank you so much again. We appreciate you and everything that you do to help our department's culture. Thanks again. Go Dolphins, and good luck here as we start here this spring term. Thank you.
Everybody, appreciate